So with almost 2,000 species of birds, Colombia has more bird species than any other country. And that is because Colombia is the only country in the world that combines the Pacific, the Andes, the Amazon, the Llanos, and the Caribbean. Northern Colombia is a particularly interesting place to go birdwatching because it combines three globally outstanding ecoregions: the Guajira Peninsula and the associated desert, the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, the tallest coastal mountain in the world, and the Serranía del Perijá, which is the northernmost extension of the tropical Andes. On an 11-day trip on the Northern Colombia birding trail, a person can see up to 900 different species of birds. The Northern Colombia Birding Trail is a true birding adventure. I can't think of anyone better to guide you on this birding adventure than Diego Calderon. He's one of the first and one of the best guides in Colombia and all of Latin America.
The last 10 years, I've been bird watching all over Colombia and several places in Latin America. And I think after all this time, I've realized that I wanted to slow down a little bit. I wanted to take a little time and have a special road trip to get a real connection with the cultures, with the landscapes, with all these areas. I learned over the years that for me, birding is not only about numbers, but more about the habitats, the behaviors, the natural history of the birds we are enjoying. The way I designed this route was loosely based on the Northern Colombia Birding Trail. We are starting this road trip here in the dry forest and desert of La Guajira Peninsula, then moving to the highlands, the highest peaks of Colombia in the Santa Marta Mountains, going down to the lowland jungle in the Tayrona National Natural Park, and ending in the northernmost region of the Andes in the cloud forests of the Perijá Mountains. So the amount of diversity in birds, landscapes, elevations, culture, etc. of this trip is pretty unbelievable. I wanted also to take the opportunity to bring someone with me to document these things. I mean, I've been enjoying these areas with clients, but it's been so rushed, so quick, that I never am able to produce good material from it. So when I knew that I had a friend in common with Keith Lasinski, I thought, wow, that's the perfect opportunity to get really, top footage of all these birds, all these areas. And I thought that was like the perfect team.
I'm lucky in that I get to travel to pretty crazy places around the world, but it's generally for adventure projects. And when I'm in these environments, it's been sort of a side thing where I just love to shoot the birds in these different wild places. And what I quickly found with birds is that they're not easy, but I have learned that when you're working with someone who really knows what they're doing, an ornithologist, a biologist, somebody who understands the environment, their ecosystem, then all of a sudden they can bring things in front of you that I certainly couldn't get myself. So I jumped on the opportunity when I heard from Diego. This is sort of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me, and I was really excited to be a part of it.
So right now we're in La Guajira Peninsula. This is basically the northernmost part of South America. It's a mixture of dry, short elfin forest and desert.
It almost felt like Africa to me. You know, in my mind when I thought about Colombia, I did not think that an area like this existed. It feels like it's a place that should be on another continent.
Birds here are not endemic to Colombia normally because we share the birds here with Venezuela. That makes them endemics of the northern South America dry forest.
You know, as a photographer and filmer, this is an exciting place to be because there's this compositions in every different direction. It isn't just the wildlife, there's this beautiful landscape, and then there's this culture here that I'm just sort of drawn to it. It looks like you've stepped into the past a little bit in a really incredible way. I did not expect to see any of that.
I thought that starting this trip in La Guajira was going to be the perfect setting for Keith to warm up.
So Diego and I went out and we met a local fisherman and we got on his old wooden boat. You know, wading birds are a little more friendly, they're larger, they're very abundant out here. You know, just to kind of work out the kinks with the long lenses and the big cameras. I know that towards the end of the trip, we're going to be working with really small birds that are really quick, really elusive. This was a great place to sort of practice and kind of figure things out and see some incredible birds.
So all these water birds, like flamingos and egrets and spoonbills, they are not so interesting from the point of view of a birder that comes to see endemics. But of course, from the point of view of a photographer, they are absolutely gorgeous. 4 more to the left and 1 more to the left. These spoonbills and flamingos are feeding on tiny little invertebrates that are full of red pigmentation. And that's what gives them their beautiful color.
Birds were just flying around us the entire time, pelicans coming down.
That's absolutely cool. Look at that. Being with Keith in the field is absolutely entertaining.
Here we go.
Wow,
So
man.
I haven't watched this one yet.
He's like a sponge. He's like a kid. He wants to learn all the time.
It's nice stuff, man. You got it, man. I can crush that. This is a much different style of shooting than landscape photography, where you're really just waiting on the light, but the landscape doesn't move. A moving target is a much more difficult thing to shoot, especially when you're looking at it through a big lens, which takes your world and sort of shrinks it down to this little environment, and you're looking around. This is the perfect place to begin our road trip.
Once we were, done with these bigger, colorful birds, my friend Pushaina could lead us in the forest to find the real targets, the more difficult endemics, smaller birds, very skulking birds.
Míralo ahí. Llegaste un amanecer, llegaste con tu gran querer.
I've known Pushaina probably for 7 to 8 years already.
He's a local Waiju native, and he really knows the area.
Ahí está. Se perchó, se picó para el fondo. Ven. Y con Diego aprendí muchas cosas. Mi primer libro de aves de Colombia me lo regaló Diego, entonces con eso aprendí también mucho en tema de identificar y ese tipo de cosas hace más o menos 5 años, 6 años.
Look at this beautiful Trinidad euphonia. It's dispersing the seeds. It's basically planting the forest. That's beautiful natural history in action that we just got here. that's been a really important activity for these guys in this area. They're earning some money from nature, they're learning more from birds, and learning that conservation pays. One of the most iconic birds in this region is the vermilion cardinal. It's endemic to these dry forests of northern South America. What makes this bird really cool to me is their extreme sexual dimorphism. Both share the same type of crest. The female is not as red as the male, but she has a beautiful warm coloration of browns. I have this friend in Bogota, a musician, Edgardo Garces. He's a real rock star. He grew up in this area and has this incredible tattoo of the Cardenal Guajiro in his arm. So I always wanted to bring Edgardo here and encourage him to make a song about the Cardenal Guajiro.
Bueno, yo soy Edgardo Garcés, vengo de La Guajira. Soy músico, resido en Bogotá ya hace 20 años más o menos. Y desde ahí hasta acá todo el mundo me ha llamado Guajiro siempre. Yo allá soy Guajiro, pero aquí soy el cachaco. Pues para mí toda la naturaleza es música, el viento, el ruido de los árboles, el mar, todo el tiempo es música para mí, digamos. Antes de viajar, la verdad, no conocía nada del Cardenal Guajiro. Lo que investigué un poco por ahí en internet para llegar aquí. Cuando empecé a tatuarme, pues siempre quise en este brazo hacerme como todo alusivo a mi infancia y a los recuerdos que yo tenía de La Guajira, ¿no? También están mis padres aquí. Mi padre muere cuando yo tengo 6 meses de nacido y mi madre cuando tengo como 9 o 10 años. Después de esto vienen como todos los recuerdos que tengo de mi infancia de La Guajira, entre esos el Cardenal Guajiro. Sin conocer nada me lo tatué porque me gustaba mucho en realidad.
Y así le pasa a muchas personas, les gusta, pero no conoce el pájaro. Hoy, Edgardo fue la primera vez que ve el ave que siempre ha tenido ese tiempo tatuado en su piel y hoy que lo ve en el medio natural.
Tengo un recuerdo muy vano ahí de verlo cuando era pequeño, pero nunca lo había tenido tan cerca. Entonces tenía como esas ganas de verlo, pensé que ya no iba a pasar, pero bueno, se dio.
The Wayuu culture is deeply connected to birds. For example, the Cardenal Guajiro represents fertility, blood, and is the king of the dance. I wanted to bring Edgardo to Puchayna's community to participate in the ceremonial dance of the Cardenal Guajiro, and I hope this will help inspire his music.
Got in there. It's like gold bullion in there. So the next day we packed up to leave this desert region, Camarones. We went from a stark, barren desert into like a lush jungle, like a lush rainforest.
Best part was stopping in the road for some local food and juices. Kid loved it. We're here in the Santa Marta Mountains, in a range between 2,000 and almost 3,000 meters. It's a beautiful cloud forest, actually in the tallest coastal mountain range in the world. We are 20 kilometers from the ocean, and the birds here are absolutely unique.
I've never been to a place with so many birds in one area. The reason we came up here is Diego wanted to show me the Santa Marta parakeet, which is endemic to the region and a very special bird.
Kid was like, okay, we'll do some photographs of landscape and stuff, because I think he was doubting that we were gonna be lucky with these Santa Marta parakeets.
We started at 3 in the morning, took this really bumpy four-wheel drive road up to the top of the mountain, and just this rugged set of topography. There's mist just floating in.
While Kid was shooting this beautiful sunrise, I was basically busy listening all over the place, trying to track down these parakeets.
Looking out at the canopy of jungle, and I mean, there's palms way off in the distance, my initial thought was, are we even gonna see this bird? While we were scanning for the birds on top of the ridge, Diego leans over and he whispers to me, mate, I see these birds about 50% of the time when I'm here. And even sometimes when I do see the bird, it's just a quick glimpse.
Oh, wow, parakeets.
Luckily, off the top of the mountain, not 20 minutes after he said that to me, we hear the parakeets off in the distance, and we see about, well, there's probably a flock of 12 of them come screaming down the mountain, and they flew right into a eucalyptus tree.
So, of all the endemic species you find in the Santa Marta Mountains, one of the most exciting, attractive, or kind of sought-after species is the Santa Marta parakeet. This is a really beautiful parakeet, combination of greens and red colors. They're very restricted in their range. You find them in a very thin band above approximately 2,400 meters. They're associated a lot with wax palms because they use them for nesting, but they're quite interesting. They're fairly flexible in their diets. This is a species that eats a lot of fruits, flowers, and even eat leaves. And one of the curious phenomena that people have seen recently is that they're actually feeding on what are non-native eucalyptus trees. If there is still a certain amount of habitat, they're quite adaptable. You know, that gives us hope that these species will be able to persist into the future and hopefully still provide the spectacle for bird watchers.
There's almost a human connection there because you can tell that they take care of one another. And there's something very affectionate about watching these animals.
I never witnessed them for so long in the same tree. It was my best time with these parakeets ever.
After that great experience on top of the mountain filming the parakeets, we made our way down to a lower elevation to a farmhouse that was probably about 1,500 feet lower. So we followed this mule train down with all of our equipment, and we showed up at this little tiny paradise on the side of the mountain. This little farmhouse that you would never even know existed, littered with flowers everywhere, beautiful rolling pastures, and horses in the field, with an incredible view of the valley below.
To experience seasons in Colombia, you just need to go higher up or lower down in altitude. We came down the mountain and actually reached this beautiful forest. We wanted to experience the amount of birds that you can find here because that's what is about Santa Marta Mountains. It's full of endemic birds that you can only find here. When I am out looking for birds, basically the first thing I do is almost not using my binoculars. I want to use my ears, get a broad sense of which birds are calling, here and there. Based on that, I have a mental picture of the forest or the open savanna or the ocean, the habitat where I am. So really, you have to know the specific bird voices, calls, and songs of these birds you're looking for. Collared forest falcon. Santa Marta brush finches. The white-tipped quetzals that live here. Blue-naped chlorofornia. Santa Marta or hermit wood wren.
It's places like this that you can really get a lot of clear thinking done. You know, there's no distractions. My cell phone doesn't work. There's no reason to be on the computer. I even put the camera down for a little while and just walked around just to take it in for myself. I don't get to do that very much in life anymore. It's usually just go, go, go. You're surrounded by noise in different places. This is a really serene place. The only noise you hear is the ambience of nature.
Colombia has more hummingbird species than any other country. Of the approximately 350 in the New World, we have around 150. They occupy almost every square inch of the country. In the Northern Colombia birding trail, you have 10 species that can only be found here. Like the Santa Marta woodstar or rumbito. It's the smallest hummingbird around. It can even trick you, making you think it's a bumblebee. And sometimes it disappears for months at a time and nobody knows where it goes. But for me, the most interesting thing about hummingbirds in this region is their connection with indigenous cultures.
Los pájaros tienen la sabiduría más antigua. Dicen los mamos que el pájaro cambia las plumas, pero nunca cambia su canto. Yo soy Teto Campo, y soy músico, y los últimos 15 años trabajando con músicas indígenas. Vine con mi amigo Hermes, músico de la Sierra Nevada, a buscar melodías aruacas de pájaros.
El tema de colibrí en la Sierra Nevada se llama Camechcayo, un ritmo netamente milenariamente que se interpreta en la Sierra Nevada.
Estamos en el estudio de Chris, que por un milagro termina viviendo en el sitio más mágico de Colombia, un sitio especial para la música.
I'm Christian Castaño. I moved to Minca, Colombia about 6 years ago. I'm a music producer. The musical culture of Colombia is just generally very organic. It's a very direct transmission of the musical traditions of the indigenous people here in La Sierra Nevada and the surrounding areas in Colombia. It's all based on the melodies of birds and the melodies of nature. Very elemental, the concepts that the indigenous express about music 1,000% of the time.
La melodía del colibrí no se toca nunca igual, no tiene comienzo, no tiene final.
Lo que trata es enseñar a la sociedad a cuidar la naturaleza y el medio ambiente, el territorio como tal.
What has been one of the most satisfying things about coming here and working with Colombian musicians is that they're just general responsiveness and just like, yeah, great, let's do it.
La música indígena en general es música mántrica.
Y el colibrí, en otras palabras, es un personaje quien dio el origen de la semilla. Yandere, kamichikaja wekari, kamichikajiri, bisijung wezeng ya wakosa nak chunan pak chunkeri, ema nivin umake, kamichikaja pojari ijuna zanande, aja zamaja, aja ijuna ge nikam kanana, zajuna jina tenunani agwa, agwi aju pasani agwa. Agun ini share do jani so agwanan anderi man ke warmandi ibari ikrziya siano asi gakam kanano zanan ke ne vara va ne varunya vasai kwanande yander sisio zana ari ini tuna pakri kwari azari do janami ika tuna ne juga jina ne pariki ne kono panki bekuna no bistunga tina kuzun janan andi mazana zama juna pakpanika zo jana nane pinzene ke zama puna ni zo yauganan pinzene ke za juna jina demi.
So we just arrived to a coffee plantation above the town of Minca in the Santa Marta Mountains. And between 800 meters and probably almost 2,000 meters in these mountains, we get these beautiful coffee shade plantations that are actually keystone reserves for migrant and local birds.
So every year, millions of migratory birds come down from North America, arrive to South America, and go into areas like the Santa Marta Mountains in Northern Colombia. And the interesting thing, kind of unique thing, is that you can see migratory birds that have come from North America right next to a species that is only found in the Santa Marta Mountains. So these mixed flock species are really exciting to be able to kind of compare and contrast like two different worlds. You're seeing like north and south come together in one flock of birds as they're just actively moving through the forest and through these coffee plantations.
So one of the things I really enjoy most is coming up to these mountains and standing in front of one of these big mixed flocks, closing my eyes and hearing all the different noises of migratory birds and local birds together in a single big flock.
Los niños juegan, la lluvia llega, pero se queda. Los niños juegan, los niños juegan, el sol los quema, pero se queda. Los niños juegan, comme si à play, Come see us play, come see us play. Los niños juegan, la lluvia llega, pero se queda. Los niños juegan, cae la noche, el sol se esconde y ellos se quedan.
And these mixed flocks occur in this area that is not natural habitat. We have modified this a lot. We cut the forest, we planted this coffee, and we planted the shade inga trees. But this is where the mixed flocks love to be.
Come see us play, come see us play, come see us play, come see us play, come see us play. Los niños juegan, la lluvia llega, pero se queda. Los niños juegan, el sol los quema, pero se queda. Los niños juegan. Ay, ven a cantar, ay, de ver, vamos a jugar. Come see us play, come see us play. Ay, ven a cantar, ay, de ver, vamos a jugar. Come see us play. Vuelve como niños, vuelve como niños, déjate. Hace como un niño, hace como un niño.
We're in Tayrona National Park, a tropical jungle just in front of the Caribbean. You're here in the ocean, enjoying the beach, enjoying the view, and suddenly you turn back to the mountains, and up there you see the snow peaks. That's something that only happens here. In 40 kilometers, you have ocean and snow peaks, glaciers with perpetual snow. A lot of the birds and fauna and flora that are endemic to the mountains, you can't find here, but all the other widespread species are living here. So this is kind of a buffer area for the species in the higher part. This is the base, this is the barrier, this is what protects the Sierra Nevada. The white-bearded mannequin, Manacus manacus, is one of the coolest neotropical mannequins. The males are super colorful and they do crazy displays to attract the females.
So I had never seen a white-bearded mannequin in my life. And Diego took me out into the jungle.
And then we heard this snap, super loud snap. Brah, brah.
And so he said,
"Kid, let's wait 5 minutes and we will start seeing where these guys are displaying."
Within about 20 minutes, it went into this incredible sort of breeding display, which was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Basically, these guys jump between a couple of vertical branches.
And it starts darting kind of in a triangular pattern from tree to tree, super quick. I mean, this thing is like lightning fast.
These birds do really dance. I mean, they are doing their craziest, best performances to attract females.
It's like going to like the nightclub for birds. You know, and this guy has to go out and show what he can do on the dance floor, and if the lady likes it, he gets to go home with her. It's crazy.
This is one of the beautiful and crazy examples of mechanical noises. On each jump, it was snapping its wings.
And it makes this absolutely rapid clapping sound.
This snapping sound is made of a rate of
80 times per second. So it's not only like this acrobatic sort of movement, just rapid clapping as well. And it all comes together to really create this beautiful scene.
That is absolutely mind-blowing, and we're witnessing this thing 3 meters away from us. That was fantastic.
So after we watched the white-bearded mannequin, we continued further into the jungle.
And what happened is that in this area, that is kind of a mixture of dry and tropical forest, I know that land-snail mannequins also live nearby.
The bird's small, skittish, it's wary. Our fear was that we're probably a little too close. Fingers crossed, man. Man, the waiting game, it's mentally taxing. It's day 3 here in Tayrona National Park in Colombia, and we're still trying to film the mannequin bird. It's also incredibly hard because you've got mosquitoes like crazy here, just gnawing on your face, gnawing on your skin. My hands are so bitten up. So it's a labor of love, man. That's for sure.
It was a couple of full days where we had just to sit and wait, so it was not like the most entertaining of the activities.
Well, we're gonna try our luck in a new spot.
It showed to Keith that neotropical animals are, they are difficult to predict. And we were not in the best of the seasons, so we really had to work hard for this.
We ended up finding a really nice spot deep in the jungle. All of a sudden, you know, Diego's ears sort of perked up and he hears this little bird calling.
They're coming closer.
We finally got them in courtship display. And, God, it feels good to have bagged a shot. The birds had come in, landed on the limbs, they were getting ready to dance.
So we were like super, busy and keen on getting this on camera.
And these monkeys kick in, scare the birds away.
Unbelievable.
We were clearly like within their territory, and they did not like us being there.
They start to, move branches, break sticks, throwing things at me.
Look at the size of the stick that's on me. You want to kill us?
I mean, they were like, get out of our turf.
You better watch your head, dude. We're lucky that they haven't peed on us.
The birds were already flushed. One of these crazy monkeys just
shit on Diego's shirt.
Look at that. All this monkey poo. They're not happy with us here. Fuck.
I knew this was gonna happen. They either pee or poo on you.
You've gone through painstaking efforts just to get on location, and your brain is stimulated the entire time because you're hunting, looking. It's exhausting.
But when you get to see these animals, it really pays. It really gets adrenaline rushing.
Two males are here.
It's a strange thing to say. You get an adrenaline rush photographing or filming birds, but you do.
We got to see the most amazing of the displays.
You get 1 to 2 mature adults, and they recruit like these younger birds.
And then they start actually jumping over each other. So this becomes like a really teamwork. And then suddenly, there should be a female looking around.
So these other guys are like quite literally his wingmen. Back to like a bar reference, talking you up to a lady, trying to increase your chances so you look better. And then if you're lucky, you get to leave with this woman. The birds invented wingmen, and we just sort of glommed onto it. Perijá is in the northernmost point of the Andes. It sits right on the border of Colombia and Venezuela. Getting there is a real adventure. You start very early in the morning. It's a long, bumpy road from sea level all the way up to 10,000 feet.
Being a bird guide in Colombia is absolutely crazy. We are basically living the Victorian times of exploration. You can choose a remote corner of the country, and almost for sure, you're gonna find surprises. Perijá is definitely one of these places. A bird that has always challenged me in this area is the Perijá tapaculo. And one of the cool things of being here with Keith is that we actually have, for the very first time, the opportunity to capture professional footage of this rare bird. Tapaculos sound like babies or, little kids doing like with their lips. Also a shorter call that is like bzik. That is, like a snap, very metallic. I see the leaves moving. It's moving back there now, the diagonals again.
You can hear it all the time, but it's nearly impossible to see.
Tapaculos are a challenge. You have a couple of tricks, you know where to, put some of the playback, some of the voices of the birds, that you play to get them close by. But then most of the times you don't see them. Just below that curving branch. Okay, probably gonna go left. Go left, go left. You go left.
It's so fast. I caught like a flash of it, but nothing usable.
This is ghost birds, People tell, like they behave like mice. And it's because they're like that, they just run and you don't see them.
Your eyes are playing tricks on you all the time. You see a little leaf move, you think it's the bird. So you're constantly chasing this ghost.
It's almost like allergic to the light, to be in the dark.
Using its shape. I love kind of the challenge of playing with these animals that are tough to see, tapaculos, tinamus, and birds, fucking a condor. No, it's not a condor, it's a black-chested bruiser eagle. Wow, look at that beauty. Cool. That's pretty good. That's lovely. Big animal. I mean, do you see it? Pretty cool.
Without Diego, there's no way we would have even gotten to see the bird. He picked out a really good area, and he had a really good understanding of where the bird might land. And it was all guesswork, but his educated guesswork really paid off.
Look at that, look at that. Sometimes seeing a tapaculo or just hearing it and getting a little glimpse, for me personally, it's like more rewarding than just seeing like a big, beautiful toucan for 2 hours. That I love it and I enjoy it. It's like easier, much easier. This is more challenging. I love that from nature, challenges.
The whole trip has been filled with Diego showing me one incredible bird after the next. And each experience has been unique in all the different ecosystems we've traveled to, the different parts of the country. It's been really just mind-blowing for me, but it wasn't until now here at the end in Perijá where I learned something pretty powerful about him that I didn't know. 10 years ago, here in Perijá, he was kidnapped by guerrillas and held captive for a few months.
I wanted to bring Keith to the place where I was kidnapped and released, to show him how much has changed, that these places in Colombia are now safe to come back to. It happened in 2004, and these guys took all of my gear, including my field notebook. So I started secretly to make notes about the birds and the habitats on any piece of paper I could find. Basically what I did was, doing a a little description. That's the little illustration of the head I made in the field at night, you know, on our little tent. I was hiding like a ghost bird, you know. I couldn't do these notes freely.
He had the courage to not only come back, but to bring me along so I could sort of experience it. And it never looked like it was a strain or he was scared. He was still just as excited to show it to me as anywhere else we'd been.
This was keeping me busy mentally and alive, you know. It was keeping me entertained. One of the main things that Periha teach to me in my first visit was patience, you know, was huge loads and, you know, like therapy, patience. So yeah, then, yeah, probably when I came the last time I was in Periha back in 2004, when I came in this road, down the hill, down the mountain to, you know, to freedom, I for sure wasn't thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna come back here anytime in my life.
It's not only given closure to a hard past, it's the beginning of a very, very bright future for Colombia.
Probably I never thought that I was gonna be back here. Enjoying it, I mean, absolutely enjoying it. That's a privilege, absolute privilege.